Hi, I'm Jenny Pastasak. You're watching Local Lens. Recently, the Wicomico County budget has been approved. Joining me today is Wicomico County Executive Julie Giordano to talk about what was approved in that budget and what's coming our way in the community. So let's start off by congratulations on passing the budget.
Yes, thank you.
I think that people at home might not even know the process and what it takes to pass a county budget, and maybe we can remind them of all the steps that are involved first, and then we'll talk about what's in the budget.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think of budget season being like March to, maybe the middle of May, beginning of June, but it really starts actually right in the fall because we start with a CIP, and so that's the capital side of the budget. So we meet with all the department heads, sit down with them, figure out what is the best course forward for them, what are their big projects, what are things that we want to include in the capital budget, and then we put forth the CIP to the county council. That's step one, and then we go into the actual budget where we're looking at the capital side of things, but now we're bringing in the operating side of things. So again, meeting with all of our department heads, sitting down, talking about what are the different things that they want, and our director of finance does a good job. She really has them justify why is this being raised, or why are you putting this position in, or what's going on here. And as long as they justify it, she's like, all right, let's do it, let's go for it. So we do things a little bit differently. We tell them to put everything in. What is every wish that you want? And then we kind of trim down from there. So so we meet with them, and then we kind of craft this budget together. Me and my administration and the director of finance and her team, we craft it all together, and then we present it to the county council on the third week of April. So a lot of people think, oh, it's done, but it's really almost just the beginning of the analysis. It's brought out to the public. The council can look at things. We also do a public hearing. I forgot about that. So we do ask the public to come out and say, hey, what are some things you want to see in the budget? And then, so it's given to the council, and then they sort of do their thing where they're able to cut. They can't add. But if they do have additions they want to do, they sort of present them to me. And as long as we're in agreement, then those things get added in. Okay. And then it's passed. So lucky for us, this last council meeting, it was passed. So
does the county council come back and ask questions about what you're proposing?
Yes, absolutely. So they get the budget, and then they kind of do their analysis amongst themselves, and then they formulate lists of questions and ask different department heads to come in and sort of do the same thing we ask them. Can you justify this? And what are the questions, that we have, and can you answer these questions? So and they do their due diligence. And those are open to the public, so the public can come and sort of listen in. And then, of course, then it goes to the final vote.
So, the vote.
Yes.
I think it's thorough. It's a thorough process, though.
It is.
There's checks and balances there.
Yes.
And there was exciting news to share when the budget. So let's talk about what is in that budget.
Sure. So some of the big things that we were really excited about were, first of all, we really have tried, since I've been elected, we've really tried to take care of our employees. So I felt like our employees were underpaid. I think when you compare us across the state, we have some catching up to do. Since I've been in office, we were able, including this budget, able to raise salaries 16% right now. So we're hoping for at least 20% by the time the next budget comes in, which I think is huge. That is definitely huge. So we want to take care of our people. So that was a big thing. We actually are caught up with our payments for Salisbury City Fire. So that was a big thing. So we've caught up our payments, and now they will be on the same schedule as our volunteer companies. Which I know people are like, what is going on with this fire thing? But Salisbury is a little bit separate than what our volunteers are. So they had kind of a separate line item. And so right now, everything is caught up. We are good. And now there is no back payment owed. And so we are moving forward with that. So we're happy about that. We did a great increase to our volunteer companies. So we have 11 of them in the county. So we were really happy to see that. And of course, I think the biggest thing and they're a very relentless group, and I was part of that group at one point in time, is our school board. And so we were able to not only meet maintenance of effort, but we were able to exceed that by almost $3 million in doing this investment in education. And it was great. It was a big community effort. It wasn't just schools. I met with Sandy Angelo at Pohanka. I met with Steve Leonard in Title Health, and met with a lot of community leaders that are saying we have to invest in education. And so I was really happy to be able to put that in front of the council, and then they sort of left it alone. So,
and I think too, when we talk about education, whether you have a child in school or not, People come here for jobs and want to buy a home and plant some roots here. And one of the first things they look at are the schools, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So so we have to invest in it. So I don't ever want the government to be the reason that the county schools maybe not be as successful as they could be. And I do have to say, I thought the Blue Ribbon Panel on Education did an excellent job at proposing something that was reasonable. They didn't ask for $20 million of maintenance of effort. They asked for two to three. And so it was very reasonable. And so I'm hoping that we can continue on that path and continue that investment.
That's what I think that's what the best part about it. They don't have to keep coming back and asking for more because the investment's already agreed to.
Right. Absolutely. So we're hoping, yes.
So anything else that you want to highlight?
Yeah, we were able to, I was saying this earlier, we really presented a very, I feel, fiscally responsible budget. There were a couple of new positions that we were able to add. One of them that we were really excited about is in our planning and zoning department, we're adding a finance person, which people are like, why do you need a finance person in planning and zoning? But there's so many grants and things like that, especially when we're dealing with the Department of Housing and ERAP and things like that were coming in, that a finance person would be really great with that, grants and things like that. So we're excited about that. We were able to, we did our natural increase that happens with our deputies. So they ended up with an increase as well. So we were happy about that. Sheriff Lewis had put in the budget for 5 additional deputies. We were able to get those to expand his force, as well as he is looking at doing some sort of law enforcement, almost like a PIO position, which I think will be really great. I think it got passed. I think they're looking at maybe combining a couple of things with it. So I'm not really sure what his vision is with that, but we're excited because that's going to be more community relations with our police department. So that's great. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, everything we really asked for, there was some money for, I believe, Mason-Dixon and a couple of other projects, Pirates Wharf, things like that have been in the budget. So yeah, we were happy to see those.
Well, and the education piece, teachers are getting a bump too.
Right.
From my understanding.
Right, they are, yeah. And so, our breakdown is, we just kind of hand the check over and we sort of let them figure out where it goes. So, but yes, the teachers are getting a bump, which is a good thing.
So what I hear is raises and, deputy, your people, the countywide people, and that's great to hear in a climate like we're living in today.
Yeah, and I think some of the biggest thing is we've had a lot of turnover prior to my administration, and this is, I'm not blaming any other executive or anything else, but the institutional knowledge leaves, and that's what makes it really difficult. We do a great job in Wicomico County of training people for other jobs, and so we really are hoping to sort of keep them here and saying, hey, look, we want you to learn with us. There is a path forward, and that's what we've really talked about with our department heads, is figuring out what does that path look like. There always should be a way to go to the next level until you're at the department head level, but show that path, and whether that means certifications or things like that, and really, having people feel appreciated and they want to do better and want to exceed in certain things and succeed in things. So we're really pushing that. So that was a big thing. So, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to ask if there was anything in the budget that, it just didn't
make
happen.
It. Yeah, one of the big things, so we really feel that we need a risk manager position in the county. We have a lot of assets here in the county. And so HR had actually looked at adding that in their budget, and I just didn't feel we were ready. I didn't feel we were ready for it. I wanted to do more of a study of what are our assets? What exactly is that position going to entail? Right. I couldn't even figure out a way to train this person. So I wanted, actually, we are going to be getting a new assistant director of administration. Hopefully that confirmation happens on Tuesday. And that's something that he is going to be focusing on, is the risk manager position. But we just decided, we're going to hold off a year for that. Okay. So that did not make it in. With the council, they ended up, it was very difficult for them. So we purchased the old Verizon building on Mount Herman Road. Mm-hmm. Our hope is that our health department is going to be moving out of downtown. Parking is really difficult there. And it really wasn't conducive for the community. And a health department needs to be accessible. Yes. We have buildings all over this county. You have to go to ES.
Well, I was going to say, there's a couple, and you're like, which building do I go to?
Exactly. So our hope is that we turn this into a health campus, is really our goal. So there was some money in the CIP, $2.7 million for the health department, for that building to be renovated. The council had a difficult time because it was just a blanket number. They're like, we need some detail. What exactly is going to be going on? So they did end up cutting it, but almost putting it on hold, saying, hey, put the RFP out, let's see the detailed list of exactly what's going to happen, and then come back to us when you're ready. And we were okay with that. So
And you can do that. Even though a
Yes.
budget's been passed, things along the way can happen and more money can be allotted.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So
Okay.
we that was going to be a bond, a $2.7 million bond, but we ended up shifting some things around. There's a tower in Pittsville that has to be redone, emergency services tower. So we're going to bond that instead. So we were looking
Okay.
at things and how we were going to replace it. So
And all the operations that tie into, all, it all works together.
yes,
Okay.
yes, yeah. And if things have to be changed throughout the year, the council's pretty good about, with budget amendments and things like that. There's a little bit of heartburn with it. They say, do you really have to do this? But there are times just things happen. So,
Yeah, sure.
And then I think one of the biggest controversial items that happened in the budget was we did do an increase in our tipping fees out at the landfill. They did end up putting them on hold, I think, till January, but they do understand that we do have to raise those fees.
That made me think of something real quick about the risk management position.
Sure.
Like, I'm thinking, what risk? Like, the landfill is filled. We can't do it anymore. Like, is that the risk you're talking about?
That's part of it. So with risk management, it's also kind of analyzing the different buildings that we have. Are they up to code? Are they safe? Are we doing the best course? Are we energy efficient? Are we just looking at all of these different things? And we have all of these assets: our civic center, the airport, now the library. We want to make
Yeah.
sure that our buildings are up to date and up to code and that sort of thing. And that's just a piece of it. It's really looking at how much of a risk is the county at for just anything. Honestly, it's so open-ended. And so that's why another reason why we were like, what, we really need to tailor this and really start doing some legwork in that. And so we have a girl in HR, her name is Madison. She is fantastic. She loves risk management. She loves looking at things. And, so she's going to be part of this team. Our assistant director will be part of this team. Steve Garvin, who works out at Emergency Services, will be part of this team. And we're really going to put almost like a package together and then go ahead and put this position out there saying, this is what we have. Let's go ahead and get this done, that kind of thing. But it was just one of those things where I couldn't even honestly wrap my head around what exactly are we looking at here. So we've got legwork to do before that position goes forward.
Yeah, you think about crisis communication. You don't need it until you need it,
Right.
and then you really need it.
Exactly.
So you don't want the risk to actually come to fruition, and then you're
Exactly.
scrambling.
Right, exactly.
You do. I mean, and I think about all of the things in our county, and most recently, with the fire department and the outreach they're doing in the community by taking literally, health professionals out with them to serve the community. It makes perfect sense to me, and it's working.
Yeah.
I mean, they have results. They're doing good things. So.
Yeah. Salisbury does a great job with that with Swift. It was such a great idea in putting those people together. And what happens is you end up saving taxpayer dollars because you're not sending out your big fire engines and things like that. When people have a fall or misread their medication or things like that, they're calling an ambulance, they're calling the fire department to come out. But if we can get that van out that has those professionals on there, we can take care of everything right there. And then, we're able to save money that way. But it's a great service. And the fact of the matter that we see these people starting to work together and not just siloed, I think is a really good thing.
That's let's talk about that a little bit, about working together. The county, the city, and there's lines that are drawn.
Yeah.
Even when it comes to plowing the snow. I think about that. I'm like, oh, that's a county road, that's a city road.
Right.
Do you feel like there is more teamwork when it comes to the city and county?
I do. I actually really do. I think I have a good working relationship right now with Randy, and I have a really great working relationship with Andy. And so I'm really sad to see Andy go to Talbot. A lot of institutional knowledge that will be leaving. But prior to his departure, and prior to that, we were really doing a good job at just keeping that open communication. Him and I would try to do lunch at least once a month together just to sort of see where we were with things.
Sure.
And I do think that, we have worked not even just with the city of Salisbury, but one of my goals as executive was to work with all of the municipalities.
Yes.
And so we're not seeing the snowplow stop and then pick back up, 500 feet later. We're not doing that. And we've worked with Delmar numerous times with a road that was going to get paved that had county, there was a part of the stretch that was county road. We said, just pave it and send us a bill and that sort of thing. So I feel like I feel really proud that we have worked really well with the municipalities, and moving forward with things like water and sewer, you have to, you know what I mean?
Right.
We need those municipalities and having those good working relationships. But
Well, because we have Fruitland, we have Pittsville, we have Willards is even Wycombe. I mean, I used to live in Willards. It's like right on the line,
Yeah.
you know, and there's, like you said, it's not just Salisbury. This is the whole, all of Wycomico County. And you have to listen to all of their needs too. Do you talk to them?
yeah, we had started, and actually we're actually due for another meeting. We had started doing a municipal meeting where we would have the municipal leaders along with myself sort of get together and just to hear, hey, look, this is what's going on in the county. Certain things have lent themselves to having us all together, water and sewer being one of them. The Greater Salisbury Committee had all of them come in and we had those conversations. So we, again, have really tried to do a good job at working with one another and saying, hey, look, this is the direction the county wants to go. We need your help. And where are you guys with this? And one thing in particular that we had looked at is we've been talking so much about wastewater. Are any of the municipalities interested in looking at water? We've had some companies come in and sort of look at that. So we just want to make sure anything that we're doing, we want to not necessarily offer out, but just say, hey, this is something that we're looking at. Are you guys interested? You know, so we've tried really hard, you know, with that, you know, to work with them on a lot of different things. So
What are the biggest challenges for the county right now?
right now,
Can we talk about it?
yeah. So right now, some of the things that we are working with. So our landfill is really. It's kind of scary. I think people, you know, they get upset when they hear about the rising cost of things. And if you are a citizen who has a dump sticker, we're not raising those for any sort of, you know, for any of our citizens. But we're close to like running out of room at this point. And it's we have cell 10 that is filled. We're working on cell 8. Cell 7 is about to be constructed, and we're working on that construction. But we were usually looking at an increase in trash around 6 to 8%. And it increased 26% last year with the amount of trash coming in. And a lot of it, there's a lot of different reasons for it.
I was going to say, why?
Yeah, so we're growing, you know, as a community.
Sure.
But the other thing is that because our rates were so low at $67, you have companies that are picking up in Worcester and picking up in Sussex, and then they end in Wycomico because it's the cheapest dumping, you know. And it's a bit frustrating for us. And we just did a spot check. A lot of people say, oh, how do you know trash is coming out, you know, and we just did a spot check, and all of the mail, everything was from West Ocean City. Yeah, that's what we did, West Ocean City. So it makes it a little bit tricky. And I feel like there's probably some operational things that we could work on. Like we don't charge as much for brush or anything like that. It's like $30 a ton as opposed to Worcester County that's even, you know. So we really have tried to be very business friendly towards the community. And we have kept our prices so low for so long that now we're at a point where, okay, we've got to design cell 7, and our landfill is supposed to be an enterprise where it funds itself. You know, it doesn't use taxpayer money. It uses the funds, the revenues that come in.
Sure.
And now, you know, we're looking at it like, oh my gosh, is this going to work? You know, so we are with the council extending the raise in fees till January. So it's still going to stay stagnant up until January. There's going to be some other adjustments that we need to make. Certain haulers might be only able to dump on certain days. We may be changing our hours.
Sure.
We have got to figure out a way to limit the amount of trash coming in, because what we don't want to do is to have to say our landfill is closed until cell 7 is complete, and then we're hauling our trash out of here, because that's $100 to $120 a ton, and that's what Ocean City does right now. So
They haul it to where?
they haul it to New Jersey. So there's a place in Jersey that that takes it, and I think it's more of an incineration type thing.
Okay.
And so it's easier for Ocean City to do that. And I talked to Weston, who is their county administrator, and I asked him, you know, is it better for Ocean City to do that? And he said, well, you have to think about it. You know, from May to October, for them to come off of the island and then come all the way down into Newark, Snow Hill area to dump and back, we're talking it's a 3-hour trip because of traffic and things like that.
Sure.
So much easier for them to jump it to a transfer station and then be able to
take
take it out. Yeah. We don't want to get to that point. So we are really looking for creative ways to limit the amount of garbage coming in. So
And to put it in perspective, when you say a cell, Because I don't know this.
Oh, yeah, I guess
How much are we talking? Like, what's the cell hold?
Yeah, it depends. So it depends on the size. So
Okay.
cell 7 is actually a larger cell. So if you are looking at an aerial view, it's a pretty big, area. Our cell 10 was very small.
Okay.
It filled up very quickly, and then we moved on to cell 8. But there's a lot of regulations with our landfill, the height
How
and
high?
slope, and oh my gosh, there's so much math involved. I never knew. I just like threw stuff away, but I just didn't know how intricate and how scientific and environmentally sound you have to be. And so yeah, there's a lot that goes into it. So that's one of our things that we're looking at right now. But I was trying to think. We just have so many great things like the runway extensions getting ready to start.
I was going to talk about the airport.
Yeah,
Because there's really good things happening there,
Yes,
too.
yes, we're getting ready to break ground at the end of it. Well, we've already broken ground, but they're really starting construction at the end of this month for the runway extension.
Okay.
And then we get Breeze in October,
Right.
which is really exciting. So
That's very exciting for our business, leisure. It's
yes,
a win all the way
yes.
around.
Yeah, we're really excited about that.
When they extend the runway, like how long, do we know like how long that takes?
Yes, well, it's going to take a couple of years,
Okay.
but it took 7 years to get that across the finish line. So much had happened. There was like turnover in different departments at the state level, but there were so many signatures and so many secretaries and so many people involved.
Right.
It got to the point where I said, I'm just frustrated. I was calling everybody across the bridge like, hey, this is on your desk. This needs to
you
move
sign
forward.
it?
Sign it and move it. And, hearing when they say, when they hear it, wait, who are you? I'm like, I'm the county executive. I need you to sign this, So we were able to really drag it across the finish line there, which is really important. So it's just been a very long process, but definitely something that's exciting because it will be able to, we'll be able to have bigger aircrafts coming in and out of here, which is great. It's great for Piedmont because they're expanding. So their new aircraft will be a lot easier to land where they don't have to have a certain amount of people and,
Sure.
That's
Because it would be uneven.
Yeah,
No,
that kind of thing.
that is beneficial.
Yeah.
Can we talk about housing too?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm going to let you talk because
Yeah.
I kind of, I see the parts of it. It's across near Parkside.
Mm-hmm.
There's some development there. Where is our housing right now?
Yeah, so, well, I will tell you, I have had a sit down with our secretaries, Jake Day, Secretary of Housing, and I've also sat down with, the Secretary of the Environment, like all of these different, of MDE and these sort of things. They're so siloed. And they need to really work together because one is hindering the other.
Right.
So you have Secretary Day, who's all about housing, and our governor seems to be all about housing.
Yeah.
But then again, it's being hindered and held up by MDE, who won't pay for pipes for growth. So you have like two different entities where they have their set of ideals of what they want to do, and then you have ours. With the county, tier mapping that happened years ago has made it very difficult for the county itself for developments to happen because of tier mapping. You could only have so many lots. Land can only be subdivided so many times. And it's all going to be well and septic, which is really difficult, at this point in time.
Right.
So what we're hoping is those areas that make sense. So whether it's farmland or whether it's, just land that is right on the outskirts of the municipalities, that's what we're focusing on. And right now, I don't know if I'm allowed to say their name, but there are two companies out of Delaware that are interested in building here. Okay. And what they're going to be focusing on are around $300,000 to about $500,000 houses. Now, people say, well, how does that help affordable housing, right?
Yeah.
And so, but the trickle-down effect is hoping to happen. So those houses that are your 3-bedroom, 1-bath ranchers are now going to be, they're not going to be $230,000 and $250,000. They're going to be closer to the 170, 180 of what we are used to seeing, here on the shore because you're having more inventory at that higher price.
Level.
Yeah, that's what our hope is anyway. So we're not aiming for necessarily affordable housing, and we're not necessarily aiming for mansions. We don't need any of those.
No.
But those houses for your bankers and teachers and doctors and that kind of thing is what we're looking at.
Sure.
Nurses and things like that. So that's kind of the group that we're hoping will buy here and put roots here and that sort of thing. So we do have some development going up. So that's exciting.
That is exciting. What about affordable? Do we touch on that?
Yeah. So this is really a tough thing for me. My whole life, I've never thought government should have been in housing. Like, it's just not something that I think that we need to be a part of.
Okay.
However, being in this role, it's a little bit different, right?
Yes.
So there are, with these other developments, I'm hoping that it will create, more housing. And I've had this conversation. My sister is huge into housing on the other side of the bridge. She pulls this housing is healthcare. You've got to get these people off the streets. They cost more tax dollars. You've got to get them in housing. And we have tried different creative things with the county. I'll give you an example. So cannabis is now legal in Maryland.
Yes.
We have taken that revenue from cannabis and put it right into our LMB board, and we have entities like Habitat for Humanity who are able to apply, and their resolution is getting ready to happen at the next council meeting. Well, they will be awarded, I can't remember if it's 200 or 250,000, but that will be a yearly thing that they will be able to start either flipping houses or doing their thing. So the county is sort of getting involved, but we're putting it through an entity that actually does that. Yeah.
Which
so we're
makes
partnering.
sense.
Yeah. So we're partnering with them. So I'm kind of excited about that. But yeah, we understand that we need more housing here. We do. When you go on Zillow, I always like to look on Zillow. I'm not even looking for a house, but I like to see. But when we have 11 houses or 15 houses or 50 houses available, just the inventory is just not there. So I'm hoping with these new developments, we'll see that trickle down effect. So
Sure. I'm out of questions because I feel like we covered a lot.
Yeah.
But what didn't we?
I'm just trying to think. I think the biggest thing to know is that my administration in particular is trying really hard to keep Wacomico County, competitive. We want businesses here. We are a business-friendly administration. I'm really excited about St. John's Properties, who's building right in front of our sheriff's office.
Sure.
We are trying really hard to make sure that we're attending conferences, and we are putting Wacomico County on the map and really saying, hey, we've got an aviation maintenance school that is unparalleled to anything in the United States. We're about to have this brand new library. We're going to have a state-of-the-art health department. We're really trying, to say, this is a great place to live and work, and that our administration is, trying to be helpful, and we're trying to cut that bureaucratic red tape for anybody who wants to come in and wants to do good for the community. So
what about, it just makes me think about tourism because we want people to live, work, and play here, but we want people to just come visit and spend their money here.
Yes.
So as far as tourism is concerned, putting Wicomico County on the map is great, but what are we attracting tourism-wise?
Right. So we have a couple of things in the works. I've talked to a couple of people. Soccer has really taken off here. We have a couple of teams that we have people working with people over in Europe and like that kind of thing. So looking at a potential square field facility that's a little bit bigger, a stadium-like thing between, 3,000 to 7,000 people. We've been looking at that and what that land looks like. We're growing our softball program, with people coming in and out all summer.
Sure.
Our hope is we need to figure out ways to get people to stop here when they're on the way to the beach. We know that the beach is a lot of times the final destination, but what can we do here? We've talked about the fact since we have a zoo and we have the shorebirds, is it good to partner with Ocean City Tourism to kind of say, is there a package deal, to bring people, up this way? You can get shorebirds tickets for this amount, or we can add this in. So just little things like that, and I think, the more and more cool things we can have here, the more and more, people are going to come.
We're really rural.
we're
rural, and I think that the best part about it is we have the environment. Like we have the natural, experiences. You can go fishing. We have beautiful, spaces to share with people.
Absolutely.
And we do have more than Ocean City, and that's where there's other things to do than just head right to the beach and go to the boardwalk.
Right, exactly. So if we, just working with, I think sometimes tourism and things like that, I feel like I never want them to feel they're put on the back burner because they are such an important entity here.
Sure.
And working with them. So we always try to support them in different shows and ideas and things like that they have.
Because it brings money
to
the county.
Yeah, absolutely. So.
Where are we as a county in the state of Maryland?
So, I think we're doing better than the state of Maryland.
Okay, yeah,
honestly,
yeah.
The state, it does sort of scare me. We just last year when we were in New York, we got an increase in our bond rating.
Okay.
Our goal is to keep that. And I think, with the help of Dave Ryan, he's so wonderful over at SWED, we really do have a great story to tell. We really do. We have people, I don't think that, and this is not against any other administration, I don't think we have done the greatest job at advertising all the things that we have here. When you have a county and you say, there's no impact fees here, come build here, come here, we want your business here. We have a great Chamber of Commerce. We have, a very supportive Chamber of Commerce, if we can, sort of advertise, and this is a great place, and we're doing all these great things here, and we're just going to keep going and keep doing those things. I think that it'll come in time. So
it's time.
Yeah,
it's time.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen what's happened with downtown Salisbury. What's happened in certain sections of the county, and it just takes time.
It does. It does. But we're working hard. We're doing everything that we can to make sure that, whether it's developers or housing or, whatever. But we also want our farmers to know, we're protecting them as well. We don't want the urban sprawl. We want it in the appropriate area. So I don't want anybody to think that I'm pushing for Sussex.
That's a good point to make, because I think that's who we are too.
Yeah.
I mean, we are a farming community as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that we have a lot to offer, because you can live in a nice rural area and within 10, 15 minutes, you're in the metropolis part of our county.
Sure.
So, and I think that that's a great thing. So we're trying to push it. So yeah.
No, it sounds like you're doing a great job.
Yeah. Hopefully. We'll see. Yeah. I mean, so we're 2 years in and we've got 2 years left of this term. So, and I filed for re-election. So I'm hoping I really hope that people see, I think that there were I was such an unknown coming in as a teacher, being 17 years as a teacher. I really hope people see that we really do have the best interests of the community, and we really are trying to push things forward, and we are trying to do good things. And here soon, I think when we do that ribbon cutting of Mardella, and now that we've done the groundbreaking on Fruitland, and we see a new health department, and we have a new CAC building, and we have a new library, and people are really seeing that we want good things in the community, and we want people to appreciate those assets, and that we want to have, really good things here. So.
And it doesn't have to, just because it's been this way for years and years and years,
Yes.
I think sometimes that's the culture here. It's like, why change it? Well, because it's for the betterment of the people in the community.
Yeah, and I think, our population, I think parts of it are getting older, but we do have younger people coming in. And my hope is that I just hope that people see, I mean, I'm not young, but I'm younger than some of the people that are that have been in office for a while. And I hope that they see their voice is important and their ideas are important. Sure. And I learn something new every day from people that are like, hey, have you thought about this or have you thought about that? And it doesn't matter, young and old, they have such great ideas. And so I really hope that more people get involved, whether it's a commission or just get involved in the community. So
do you get stopped at the grocery store?
Yes. I try to shop really early in the morning, because sometimes it's
5:30 in the morning is at Walmart is it's dead.
I'm not doing 5:30, but maybe 7. But yeah, I absolutely. And sometimes I do it purposely. I'll go when it's a very busy time, and I'll kind of walk around, and usually I'm stopped hey, and they sort of look like, is that her? I've seen her on TV. I've seen her on the news, but yeah, people do stop. And a lot of times, we'll have, just great conversations right there, and I'm grabbing, food, and they're like, oh, you're normal. You go to the grocery store too, and stuff like that.
But I think that's good to check in with your community, your people.
It is.
And listen to them.
Yeah, and that was one of the things, one positive thing. I know that, Question A had happened on the last ballot, and it failed, so we're keeping the executive form of government. But one of the good things was we were out in the community. We were door knocking, we were talking to people, and not even just talking to them about that, but hey, what are some other issues that you have? And so we've really tried to make sure that we're staying connected to the community. And it's hard. There's a lot of events, a lot of things going on.
Sure.
But today I was in Fruitland and in Del Mar, and then so we really try to make our way around.
Yeah.
So
absolutely, because you want to hear from the community, because you want to help do what they're asking for.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I mean, we have a lot of people that are very vocal. Like I've said, the school board is very vocal about their needs and wants, and I think people come forward for them. But if there are other things that people need and want, and whether it's just your road paved, those are things that are important. So come forward and let us know.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah. There you have it, folks. The Wicomico County budget was approved. There are some really good things happening in our county, in our community. But if you have anything happening in your neck of the woods that you'd like to talk to the executive about, her door is always open. Thank you for joining us here at The Local Lens. We'll see you next time.